Okay.
And what you can do, okay, so it does say it's streaming live. You can go to the Facebook page now and see us there. So, hey everyone, we're live. We're having some technical issues as we are not technical people. There you go. We can see you. Oh. Okay, so it does. Okay, so just to let you know, we are live, and Eliah.
Yes, I'm listening and I can hear you loud and clearly.
Oh no, go back on because we can't see you.
Now, okay.
Just as long as we see you on the screen. There you go.
All right.
Okay, you're on the
you.
screen.
You can hear me. I don't need to see you or Cam. I can hear you fine.
Okay. All right. And let's see. Facebook has a delay, and there we go. There you are. Okay, so we're just going to go live. We're just going to start our presentation. Although Eliah can't see us, we can see her and we can hear her, which is the most important thing. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Michelle Sorensen, the Tea Goddess, the owner of Tea at 1024 in downtown Honolulu, and I've been serving afternoon tea with love and passion since 1999. And my desire with this weekly Tea Chat series is that you find it informative, educational, and entertaining. I strive to bring you tea experts, business owners, tea enthusiasts, and now tea farmers from around the world. And today I have two very, very special guests, Eliah Halpenny and Dr. Cam Muir. And Dr. Cam Muir is a conservation geneticist. He's a retired professor at the University of Hawaii Hilo, and Eliah has a horticulture background and a love for sharing her knowledge of the land, and she wanted to start a farm business. So together they started Big Island Tea Farm in Glenwood on the Big Island of Hawaii in 2001. So welcome. And this is my first time having two guests on at the same time, so this is kind of fun. But so yes. So I'm so excited to have the two of you, and you have a very fast, I know very little bit about the farming side of the tea business and growing tea. So I know that you still have a project that you're doing called the Tea Project. You want to talk about that?
Cam, I'll start it. I would say I call it the Tea Project because when we started, we didn't have land and we had no plant material. So our project was from scratch. We had to find plant material and learn how to grow tea, find a piece of land that is at appropriate elevation, weather-wise, etc., with soil. And we managed after 2001 finding a place on the Mauna Loa, northeast slope of Mauna Loa, with a big ash deposit. And it has turned out to be a perfect place to grow tea. Cam, do you want to talk more about that?
So what we've tried to do is when Elias says we wanted to find a place that has a nice elevation, we're trying to recreate the sort of environment in which tea evolved. Most of the tea, 99% or more of the tea that's cultivated in the planet is cultivated in kind of harsh conditions that aren't especially good for the health of the tree, but are pretty good at making a lot of tea. But it's low quality tea. And what we're trying to do is recreate an environment that tea is well adapted to. And the reason that that's important is that that helps the tea express genes that are important in the taste of tea and the health benefits of tea. And so I'm not just making this up. I'm not just talking out of the top of my hat. We have data, genetics data that tells us which kind of bacteria are living in the soil and which of those bacteria, the healthy bacteria, the bacteria that help the health of the plant. And I also have data about the expression of genes in tea. And I have the data for the chemistry of the leaves. And so what we see with tea leaf chemistry is that the leaves that are grown in this kind of environment that you see behind me, where there's a nice canopy over top and there's lots of different kinds of plants around, the chemistry of the leaves is much higher quality. If you compare that to tea that's grown very open style with no, trees above or anything around it, the leaf quality is lower leaf quality. So that's what we're trying to do is um, create an environment that tea likes, and so it'll do the best job of making really good quality leaves.
This didn't just come to us. We worked to find this out, really. Cam had the education, the biology background, but as I said in a little note to you, Michelle, my background was gardening and horticulture. And when I started growing the tea, it did very well, as I've always grown, but it suddenly stalled. And that pretty much left me to wring my hands and scream to the heavens, what would the ancients have done? There were no barges coming in with fertilizer. And the particular area that we grow in, which is the Ola'a, near the Ola'a Reserve, it used to be a breadbasket for all of the big islands. So we are in a sweet spot in where we can grow tea. And I thought, well, what would they have done? And then I had a tip from someone about using banana. Well, not banana per se that we eat, but the trunks. We, in fact, log banana trunks, chop them into pieces, flank our growing tea plants and any other plants, which creates a perfect little barrier from the sun. And that enables microorganisms as well as little critters that poop, and everything gets mixed together, and it makes the plants so happy. And the plants in turn produce some of the healthiest looking leaves, green, vibrant. Sure, there are little bites from grasshoppers and other creatures, but it turns out there's benefit to that.
Love, I want to interrupt you. We've got a very nice slideshow going on here. The photos that you're showing are very illustrative, actually. You showed a photo a couple slides ago of me picking tea in a very open bed.
Okay.
And that's the kind of bed that we're trying to get away from. This one, exactly. So this bed here, it looks pretty good, but the leaf quality, this is the bed that I tested for leaf quality compared to the bed that's behind me in my photo. And so we're planting a lot more trees in the area where you see me picking tea with the yellow shirt on there, so that we can get more of this canopy above. And then the next photo you showed of the banana mulch around a seedling, that's been an incredibly important part of the way that we're growing tea in our forest, is mulching with banana stalks around all of our seedlings and all of our trees. This is very, very good for the health of the soil microbiome, all the collection of bacteria that live in the soil. And that collection of bacteria, spoonful of bacteria is 25,000 species of bacteria. And which of those species is present has a really big impact on the health of the plants. So having lots of different species, like you see in that photo there, really helps to encourage there to be a very good, diverse microbiome in the soil.
It's almost a no-brainer to put your attention on the soil because that's where we grow. But after watching, when we put this into action, where we really tried to see if we could get the soil and the plants to work together, it's so obvious that I think it was 2 years ago. I wasn't on the farm when this happened, but Cam had a couple of women come from a prefecture of Japan, which is one of the oldest tea growing regions. And they came and they did our workshop, which is kind of ironic. They came to get a workshop on how to make green tea and from Japan. And then they told Cam that they'd never, ever seen plants that healthy looking. And really, Michelle, largely we have to prune, we have to mulch, And maybe 3 times a year, we will add an organic fertilizer. But the diversity with the plants in the forest and in the soil just makes really delicious tea.
Yeah, I can just see I was gonna just say hello to a couple of people. So do you know Elise Peterson?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, she's saying hi. She's watching us. And yes, Kathleen, hi. So I'm just asking if they have any questions. But I did interview Elise um, about a month or so ago.
I
So
remember
very
that.
fascinating, very educated woman. Also on this, like I said, on this part of the tea business, I know very little about. I know the end product. I'm the end user, but it is very fascinating the comparison between wine growing and tea growing, and you use the same terminology in a sense,
And it comes
don't
out.
you?
Are you carrying on to speak to Elise now? I'm sorry. I'm
Oh, no, 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 no.
What I
She's
was going
just
to say is that the tea, when you pick the tea, just say, for example, we're going to make a green tea, and we go out and pick the tea, and we time it when we're making green tea, because simply the minute you pluck it off the plant, it's already starting to oxidize. So we'll have a set amount of time that we will pick, which is around 2 hours. And in the time of it being in the bucket, just gently turning it, we lay it out. Most people, or some people, have recipes that involve just firing the green tea immediately, but we let our tea set for a little bit and wilt. And the difference, when we first pick the tea, it smells very grassy. And after 20 minutes, you go in, there's a shift in the chemistry. Just even opening the door to the tea room, we can smell the change. By the time it seems to reach this peak floral fruit note, that is when we would fire the tea. And I find it's just chemistry, really, what we're working with, and learning how to work with the plant, temperature, moisture, and the added heat, and how long you do it, how long you roll the tea, and eventually the last phase, when you dry it, how dry do you make the tea? Does it pull the sweetness out of the tea? So it's all a process that one little thing affects the other. It's all quite interdependent, from the microorganisms in the soil to the finest rolled tea leaf at the end.
it definitely is an art, and
And
you
it's
know,
taken time.
and it's very expensive. I can imagine. I mean, the process. So, I mean, how many pounds can you yield in a harvest?
A single harvest, the most we ever make is a pound. We,
Oh,
yeah, everything is a small batch. The
Finished pound,
Yeah,
Cam, or do you mean wet pound?
no, we produce a pound of tea at the end of it, um, and that's because everything is hand rolled. If we
mhm.
To make a pound of tea, we have to pick 2.5 pounds of leaves, and that makes a particularly, a big-ish ball of leaves. If you go bigger than that, you can't really do it with your hands. And many people use machines. But the problem with using machines, automatically rolling it, is that you damage the leaves. And that introduces a bitterness to the tea that we don't want to introduce. It also introduces an appearance when you pour the tea, instead of seeing just the pubescence of the tea, little sparkly hairs from the needle, you end up seeing little chunks of the leaf, and it's just not quite as pretty.
So this is a little, I just am very, very curious about this. I read that, Eliah, that you had brought some seeds back from Darjeeling,
Well,
and that you were,
we had imported tea originally, tea seeds from Darjeeling. Well, um, yes, around the Darjeeling growing region. Our first initial batch, 1,000 seeds, and they all germinated amazingly well and they survived in our climate. So we went back and we brought in 20,000 seeds, of which we made sure that the other growers, if they were interested on the island, could purchase from us for just to cover the cost of importing the seeds. And we in turn were able to get a large volume to do our own farm. And in the beginning, getting a hold of plant material that wasn't clonal was very difficult, because there are some farming methods that really stick with the conception that cloning is better than seedlings. Well, living with a geneticist, I think that Cam was able to impart a lot of knowledge to help us refine what type of farming methods we are going to use. And it just seemed a very natural fit that you would work with science in order to grow your tea, but not over bombarding the plants with what we want it to do, but making sure that the plant is growing the way it is biologically equipped to grow, which gives it the opportunity to produce beautiful tasting tea.
So I just want to pick up on something there. Yes, we do have Darjeeling, but we have about 6 other varieties too. The important thing on our farm is that we don't have a single variety. There's some people who are a little mixed up about tea growing, and they've just selected a single variety to grow. And the problem with that is that your crop becomes a pest magnet because all the individuals are too much like each other. What we're doing in creating a forest and in introducing genetic diversity in the tea that we're growing is we're making not only the tea less of a target for pests, but again, the leaf quality, the chemistry of the leaf is better. And that's been studied as well. So what we're doing is going after what we know about ecology and what we know about the leaf chemistry and what affects the leaf chemistry in tea. And what does is genetic diversity in the tea, ecological diversity in the forest, and not using, petroleum-based fertilizers and pesticides and so on.
That's beautiful.
So can I just finish one thing about what Cam was saying? And that is that when you have this type of complexity or variety in all of your hedges, when you are picking, you are already blending your tea. You're blending the best leaves with the best leaves. So it just is a no-brainer that what you will have is a more complex flavor. And I think that we have found that in tasting different teas, one just right off the bat, there's like wine, there's a top note, and then there's a bottom note, there's a complex middle, and then there's a finishing note. And we aim to try to come up with many of those qualities in one sip of tea. And it's possible when you have a diverse crop.
So Eliah, can't see this photo, but there's this photo that was on your site, and it's just a single tea leaf. And
oh yes,
the comment on that, it's a beautiful photo, and it talks about that you can only use the top few leaves.
So
but we only do.
I'm sorry, I do want to jump in there and say that
Yes.
That includes more than we would pick for our tea. Some people do pick down the stem, and that's a different kind of tea. But in that photo that you're showing, we would only pick the needle and the 2 leaves that follow. We wouldn't include that 3rd leaf or anything below it.
But it was such a beautiful stalk, Michelle. I had to photograph it.
It is. It's a gorgeous photo, and especially the one with the tea being mulched in the banana stalk. That's a beautiful green leafy. So, but you know that tea that you did get sourced from Darjeeling?
Yes.
So I read that it was very rare and that it had sold for quite a bit in Harrods.
Okay. Let me clarify what's happening. When we first started selling our tea, we were approached by a wholesaler in London. And he had followed us he read about us online because Cam put up a website letting people know that what we were doing, although we didn't have any product to sell. So he came and asked us if we had product, not knowing anything about Hawaii tea farmers. And we told him we didn't have anything, to check back next year. So he did come back and check, and we sent him a sample. At that time, Cam and I were so busy, Cam working and helping me as well as doing his job at the university, and me just trying to figure everything out. We had our heads down and we just were working solidly trying to get a good tea. Well, he sent us back a comment that he took our tea to Harrods as well as the East India Company. And we were, both of them had offered us with our tea exclusive rights to sell there. And Jamil's comment to us was that we were raising a bar on the quality of tea. So we were kind of stunned by that, quite frankly. We just thought, little old us sitting here just trying to do it. We weren't even sure how we could do it. How do you really get a good cup of tea? And it looks like we hit on a recipe that's very pleasing. And it was pleasing enough that they sold it for about $11,000 a kilo, and on their in their store. But I have to tell you a little funny about that. They sent us a photograph of the store with their beautiful display of our tea, and they had an in-store signage, and it called it Bug Island Tea.
They called it what?
There was a typo in the sign, and it said Bug Island Tea.
Okay.
So here they're selling it for this crazy amount of money with the typo Bug Island Tea. I just wondered how many people bought it through that signage. But anyway,
I love it.
we moved on to just self-promotion more and not working just with one company after that, just trying to spread. It's slow. It's a high-end product. It's a new product. Unlike coffee, it's not a well-established high-end, maybe in people who are way more nuanced about tea and the presence of tea for thousands of years. North America's pretty young at it.
Right, right. So, but it's a beautiful thing. I think Volcano, from what I'm understanding, is like the perfect place to be able to grow it, especially with on the volcanic ash. And does that add to it, or both of you are?
So a lot of the places where some of the highest quality tea is grown in the world is grown in volcanically active areas. We know, I mean, really, the study, so going back to that leaf chemistry study that we did, it's the same soil. So it's not just the soil that's doing it, of course. And that's, I would say, the problem with most of the way that tea and everything is grown is that people are trying to be too reductive. They're trying to reduce it to a bag of fertilizer or this kind of soil or that kind of soil. And it's got everything to do with what else is in the soil. If you're in a forest, that's going to be an ecologically healthier place for the tea to grow. So is the soil important? Yes, the soil is important. Who's in the soil is actually more important than the soil itself. And when I say who, I mean the bacteria. But then who also, all the trees and all the plants and all the everything else. And all of that's important. It's a complicated thing. All these plants are talking to each other. They're sharing information. A tea plant that gets bit by an insect tells the tea plant beside it, I just got bit and you should do something about it. And the doing something about it, this is more data that I have. Tea trees that are bit by insects actually have higher quality chemistry in the leaf than tea trees that weren't bit by insects. Well, it's sensible because the thing that we like in tea, the caffeine and the catechins and all those compounds that are giving us the flavor of tea and the health benefits of tea, that's the tea's reaction to being bit by an insect. It's making these compounds so that the insect goes away.
Yeah.
So if we,
well, that's a beautiful thing that you bring up, because you're talking about how important, the ecosystem, that the insects and everything, how important they are to, having, this beautiful tea plant or any product that we're going to produce in the soil. And here we are trying to come up with products to kill the insects and to actually destroy their natural growth environment. So that's, you know, it's a beautiful thing what you're doing.
Well, when we first took over the land, Michelle, it was covered with 10 huge greenhouses, and that had been, the land had been under plastic for quite a long time. Once they came down, the soil structure was pummeled by rain, and we began to plant trees. So it has taken all this time for the land to work together. There were no trees, there were no insects, and because there's no trees, there were no birds. When I say no birds, I mean maybe a couple of minor birds and or something like that, maybe a sparrow. Now we have over 15 species of birds on our land. We've got 2 types of geckos. We have praying mantises. We have walking sticks. We have 2 types of lady beetles, and so on. And the trees are 35 feet tall now and looming in a large part of our farm. Not all. We're still working on it. This is a list as long as our life of which to plant, just to keep building and building the forest. And with the COVID, you did ask in your email, has COVID affected our business? Of course it has. We closed our gates instantly, and tourism was a revenue stream for our sustainable farm. And now we're working on Plan B. And I think, I don't know how much time we have to talk with you, but I would love Cam to tell you how we are going to take our farm from a tourist walk-on farm tour to a virtual tour.
Yes, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay,
Cam.
so I'm starting to experiment with 360 cinematography, meaning I'm using a camera that has 6 different lenses that point in different directions. So this photograph that's behind me is actually a spherical photograph. So if you were wearing virtual reality goggles, you could look around and see the canopy above you and the soil below you, and look all the way around. So what we're gearing up to do is offer virtual tours. You can sit in your home in Wisconsin and be immersed on our farm. I'm going to be making a virtual tour, kind of a game, interactive tours. So right now I'm working with some different programs where I can take these 360 photographs and 360 videos and make it possible for the person who's viewing them to select things in their environment and get more information, and get maybe videos come up and play additional information, so that you can get the immersive feel of coming onto the farm, but with even more information that you might otherwise get.
And COVID safe.
Yeah.
COVID safe. Michelle, you could have a tea party, and they could all wear goggles, and they'd be sitting in the middle of our tea garden as they're sipping our tea.
That's
I
fascinating. I love the idea. That is fascinating. So you're not doing any of your tea tours now? Not at all? Not
No
even for locals?
no in-person tours right now at all.
Not even if I come over there? No.
We'll just douse you in.
Contact
Yeah,
us
but
off
you
live
did.
streaming.
Yeah. I mean, you had your tea workshops, and you know, you had your couple of days. You had some workshops that went on for a couple of days that people could go to, and you know, and it's
Oh, we did it all the time, and I loved it. And everybody who came had such a great time. It was like a whirlwind day that everybody walked away feeling like they won the lottery, including me.
Part of what's motivated this is that we were supposed to have some farming interns come to the Big Island this spring. So what we're going to be doing is producing workshops that we can attend on, people could attend online, so that they could take the workshop without having to come to the Big Island. You know, frankly, even for locals, we might be closing down inter-island travel again. I mean,
right.
the imbalance of infections, Big Island compared to Oahu, compared to Maui, Um, Really, what we're trying to do is solve a problem that's been a long-standing problem. And that is that every time we become reliant on tourism and agritourism, uh, we get kneecapped by something like Kilauea going off and no one coming back to the Big Island for 2 years, or now COVID coming and no one's going to come back to the Big Island for a couple of years. And we had 2008 before that, and we had 2001 before that, and these things aren't going to stop. So I think that we want to put in a lot of effort into trying to enable people to take tours without having to travel here, just to make it a little bit more stable. But frankly, if we're going to be concerned about the environment, we shouldn't be relying on people spending a lot of jet fuel to get here.
Right.
It's a new era, Michelle, really and truly. I think eventually even world travel will be, well, it already is reduced. And this will make it more available to people who would like to see the Big Island, who would like to learn. We conceivably will be having tea workshops again, online virtual reality. We hope to continue what we're doing, focused on education and getting out what we have done over the past almost 2 decades.
Yeah. Well, what you're doing is extremely special, especially in the Hawaiian Islands. And most people don't think about tea being grown here. And like you said, it is in a very small, very artisan type of style of tea because you can only produce, a very small crop. And yeah, I think the work that you're doing there is beautiful. And I love it. Um, do you sell your teas or do you make
Yes.
that available?
So we now have a company called Winwood Farms who's going to be doing all of our marketing. So we can certainly provide their contact information. Of course, you can contact us and we can just put you through to Debbie and Tobin. Um, People can contact us through our website. Eliah's email is on the website. My email is kilinoicam@gmail.
We have
Um,
Instagram, Big Island Tea, simply.
there we go.
There, I put a little infographic there with your contact information. And just, I mean, for people that are watching, and there's a couple of people that I know that, like Hannah she's from Denmark and never been to the Big Island. And, I'm sure she would, I mean, just the photographs here are beautiful. And your background, it is very dimensional. I mean, it has a very round, like mine, or, it's a very flat surface. So but yours looks like you really are sitting in your forest area. And I love that.
I have to tell you, Michelle, I've been a really serious computer user for about 40 years, and I've never gotten into gaming. And now, for some crazy reason, I'm getting all interested in virtual reality gaming and being able to put on your virtual reality dog, not for the gaming, but that I can walk around the farm, or I can imagine people visiting our farm and being completely surrounded by the farm. This photograph, when you put on the goggles, everywhere you look is the photograph. Well, it's kind of blowing my mind. I hope it's as fun for other people as it is for me.
I would find it very fascinating. So you have two different types. Well, you have a black tea and a green tea. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you have the two different. What are the names of the tea?
It's Kilinoi green tea, and Kilinoi is the name of our farm when we first took it over, which means misty rain. And it is quite often misty rain on the farm. So we call the actual forest Kilinoi tea forest, and our green tea is Kilinoi green tea, and our black tea is A'a black tea.
So it's all a black tea that you're showing right now.
Oh, okay. And what does AA mean?
You live in Hawaii?
We're just naming it after the lava. There's two different kinds of people who are watching. They might not know. There's two different kinds of lava here. The pahoihoi, which some people call pillow lava. It's all smooth. It comes out very slowly. And is when it is emerging from the volcano is gassy and very liquidy, not very
Frothy.
yeah, kind of frothy. It moves very, very quickly. And when you step on it, lots of people joke that has its, because if you walk on it in your bare feet, you'll be saying, because it's very
I did not know that. Yes, thank you. But you know, the Big Island, that's one of my most favorite islands to go to. I love Volcano. I love staying up in Volcano and staying with, at the Volcano Teapot with Antoinette in her beautiful bed and breakfast up there. And of course, just being up in the volcano when they rebuilt and reopened the lodge.
Kilauea Lodge, yeah.
Yes.
And we stayed there once on where you could see the cauldron. And
Volcano House.
Okay.
Volcano House. Yes, yes, yes. Because
Yeah,
they had closed that for quite some time and then they reopened it. And that's a beautiful, very old. And, for people that are listening and, just the Big Island is just such a magical place. And I can see how you both have fallen in love with it. And which also kind of like, because you're both originally from Canada. So what made you decide to go to the Big Island?
So I wanted to come here because Hawaii is the best place in the world to study what I'm interested in. When I was finishing my PhD, I was frankly applying for every job that came up in Hawaii because it's such an amazing place to study the process of evolution. That's my research focus. So I got a job here, and that bloomed into something that became more than just research. It also included teaching, and then I got a faculty job. And all the while, I was trying to talk my sweetie into joining me because
That's me, just in case you don't know.
so she's living in Vancouver and I'm living here, and we're having this long distance romance, which we used to say was all good for our communication, but it really sucked. And so eventually she was able to come here, but because we're Canadian, Eliah wasn't able to take a job. I'm able to because of trade agreements, and I have a PhD, and that's on the list of things. But when Eliah moved here, she had to create work for herself. She wasn't able to take a job, and so uh, she was always in Vancouver. Eliah's garden was one of those gardens. People who were walking along the street would walk blocks out of their way to see Eliah's garden because it just was beautifully timed and beautifully color coordinated. So she had the green thumbs and fingers. And when she first moved here, thought about growing orchids, but we realized how much pesticide, you have to drown them in pesticide. And we didn't want to have anything to do with that. And when it was maybe a month, Eliah moved here September 15th, 2001. So when the airport first opened up after 2001, 9/11, that's when Eliah arrived. And there was an article about a research project on growing tea. And Eliah always says, I'm talking for her, but she says it's like a gong going off in her head when she read the article, because the tea, grows really well in the higher elevation and not such
No
a
pesticide, no known pests so far. That was really a big thing for me. Just not wanting to have a crop that you'd be constantly managing massive murders on creatures. And also not wanting to use the chemicals, not wanting someone else to use the chemicals. So tea didn't have enemies already. And even still, after almost 20 years, our biggest scourge would be ants. Having ants all around. That's always something to keep an eye on. But other than that, everything that comes, they don't do massive damage, just have a little bite. Generally, whatever bites the leaf does not like it and they disappear. So we have slowly started the project and realized as we started it that we knew pretty much nothing about growing tea. And it turned out not too many people on the Big Island knew either. So we just all stumbled and bumbled along and found our spot. And luckily, I had Cam as a consultant really to use logic in working with, not just take information without thinking about how it all fits together. The whole the ecology, and at the time it was called permaculture, where you did low intervention in the soil and so on. It just made sense to me. And that is how we meshed our skills. Cam with his science background and me with a green thumb. We were, and also I've had an amazing sense of smell all my life, torturous sense of smell. And when you're smelling the chemistry in the leaves as it changes, they're markers. They tell you when to cease wilting. And when you're rolling, the scent changes as well. So you know how much to roll. And of course, all the visuals. It's really, it's a very fulfilling experience. When we started processing our tea, I was invited to a tea party on the Big Island with other growers, and we all did our tea. And one of them said, "Oh, the best part of growing tea is drinking it." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. The best part of growing tea is smelling it when you process it." And that is, to me, still by far the big call, is just smelling the aromas that arise in the process. And I'm not sure how we're going to get that in virtual reality, scratch and sniff. I don't know how it's going to happen.
Well, you both are definitely a marriage made in the tea culture heaven, with Cam's background and your love for gardening together. It seems like you've created this beautiful, tea farm up there. And I'm just really thankful that you took out the time to chat with me. And I know that I've learned a lot. And for those of you that are listening, I would just, go onto their website and also your Instagram, because I think on your website, the videos that you have. Very interesting videos, and all the things that you are doing, and especially going to look forward to your new project of the virtual tea farm. That's, that's going to be fascinating, and I wish you the best on that. And I'm trying to look for your contact information once again that I can put up there for everyone to see.
It's pretty easy. www.bigislandtea.com. Simple name, simple.
And well, are you going to be able to come back to Hawaii soon?
I'll come back. My husband's there. He's kind of important to me.
Yeah, of course. But I thought maybe because of your Canadian,
no,
status or something.
Yeah,
Eliah shares her time in Vancouver.
Yes.
So she's with our grandchildren right now, and our daughters. And so then she'll come back in the winter time and through the spring.
For the harvest and getting things going and processing and working now with all of that. And we also, just to throw out there, we have had other growers that we've taught over the years, not just through workshops, but just people who have purchased plants, or there was a big giveaway. We grew 20,000 plants through a state grant, and there were farmers that started growing there. And we have had one who's managed to stay with us for about 6 years, and he is now getting ready to process his leaves, which we will do. He'll pick his leaves and we will process them for him and share the profit. So that's ongoing.
That's wonderful.
Ongoing.
And when this COVID is all said and, well, you know what? Everything is.
We hope, Michelle, that we can open our doors again, because it's like this beautiful park. It's a beautiful park, and it grows tea. So lovely. And we hope to open when things settle down.
Yes. And you will. But at least it's still growing and it's doing its thing naturally and, up there. But I'm just going to, we've been on for some time. Did you have anything else that you want to say, or either one of you or both of you? Sorry?
Soon to have their virtual tours up so people can virtually take a tour.
I'm looking forward to that. That'd be kind of fun. That would be fun.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you for the chance. It was good fun.
Pardon?
Good fun today. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me, and hopefully my listeners have learned, and new followers have, learned something about tea growing and how beautiful that is, and how wonderfully natural. You're very respectful of the natural process of growing the tea, and not putting too much human touch in there to interfere with that process. So I'm sure you do, that comes into a very beautiful tea product.
It's a real privilege to be able to do this.
We if I loved it every day. It's just been a wonderful project. That's why we call it the Tea Project, because it's involved. That's our name for it, more or less. That it just evolves, and keeps us interested.
Well, it's hard to say goodbye to you.
Okay.
I
Oh,
really
goodbye,
enjoyed
aloha.
talking. We could continue forever talking. But there's no way, like on Zoom, I don't know how to end it really nicely, because once I hit end, it's just going to blank out and I won't see you, say goodbye to you. So I'm
Okay.
going to say thank you, and aloha and mahalo for taking the time to share your lives and your story with us, and for all the people that were watching and will watch on the rebroadcast. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. All right. Aloha.
Aloha.